Keith Conlon and John Keneally with Jane Doyle and Chris McDermott. Weekday mornings from 6 on 1395, Adelaide's 5AA. Interactive radio. Email on air at 5AA.com.au. Brad Aldridge.
Just on the 5:15 on 1395, Adelaide's 5AA. Now, joining us from across the ditch, well, from, I say ditch, it's quite a big pond of water, really. Selwyn Manning, co-editor of www.scoop.co.nz, an online news service based in Auckland. Let's have a chat and find out what's happening over there in the land of the long white cloud. Good morning, Selwyn.
Yeah, g'day, Brad. How are things?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Good fine day over here.
Ah, beautiful. What time is it over there at the moment?
It's 7:46 a.m.
Okay, so you're a little bit ahead of us at the moment, and the weather's shaping up quite nicely?
Yeah, not too bad. We've had a terrible summer season of just rain. I think we had about 6 weeks of almost solid rain, Brad.
Jeez.
So we had a fine day yesterday, and it's like, oh, is that what it feels like to have some sunshine? And it looks like we're going to have another one today. If you see a bunch of Kiwis getting off an aircraft at Adelaide and they all look pasty, that'll be why. It's been raining.
That's because they just haven't had a good glimpse of summer yet, by the sounds of it.
Not at all. The frightening thing is in the mornings it's starting to feel like it's around Anzac Day. That
really?
kind of temperature. Yeah, it's completely out of whack.
It's interesting you say that, because probably last week I was thinking that I got up a couple of mornings and I thought this is like it is exactly around Anzac Day, around April, May, when it starts to change. It had that chill in the air, but then we've had a couple of bottle of days over the last few days in the 30s and so forth, and we're cranking up and down, mid 30s, so can't complain at the moment.
No, you can't complain with those temperatures. No, we're sitting around 22 to 24 on a good day. So, it's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, 20. Yeah, considering we're going to hit, what are we hitting today? 31. So
yeah, I think it's all that La Nina pattern. It's pulling all of the, all the steamy kind of wet air. That's what we're getting coming down from the South Pacific and covering the north part of the North New Zealand anyway.
Well, that's it. We'll blame whatever we can because what the experts are telling us. Now, what's big in New Zealand news?
Yeah, what's this huge? It's a huge issue. It's an environmental issue. This one, and it's this container ship, the Rena.
Oh yes, yep.
Yeah, it went onto a reef. It steered onto a reef. No one can really figure out why, and that's going through the courts this next couple of months.
Okay.
But, this vessel was a container vessel. It hit a reef just off the Tauranga port, and Tauranga is about 2.5 hours drive, 2 hours drive south of Auckland City, and it's on the east coast, so right on beautiful kind of Bay of Plenty coastline there.
Yeah.
And when it hit about 3 months ago, it spilled out containers off the top of the ship. They went overboard, but the worst part was it was leaking oil. Ship oil.
Nasty.
Nasty stuff, wader birds, seabirds and things like that dying by the hundreds and thousands, really, on the beach.
Shocking.
And big clean-up was going on, but this is still ongoing, Brad. The vessel that broke in two on this reef about a week or so ago, about 10 days ago, and since then there's been more containers going into the Pacific. There's at the moment the Salvers can confirm that they got around 397 containers off the ship. But there are 500 unaccounted for. Now, some of those will be down in the hole where the salvers can't get down to.
Yeah.
But a lot of them have gone out and are unaccounted for, bobbing around out there in the Pacific. So there's warnings, for ships out there in the Pacific and yachts and boats. Be really careful of a container that might be just bobbing under the surface. It's a real hazard. So that's one of the big things that's going on at the moment, and the cleanup is continuing. There's still fermented meat that was on board the ship, in bulk kind of quantities.
Yeah.
That's washing up on the beaches. There's milk powder being airlifted out of some areas of the ship. It's just an absolute
what a mess. That's the understatement, isn't it? It's just carnage of rubbish and debris.
Yeah, and we did a bit of a light poll, on what it's not a scientific poll, but just people on website, what they thought of this. And, they thought that the government's response was very poor. Most of them said that, and the others said that it was kind of poor. There was only one or two that kind of said that it was satisfactory. No one said it was good. Well, obviously, the government's not responsible for this thing, happening.
Yeah.
But when it first happened, they were down there and all over it, but it was an election campaign time, and since then, you haven't heard a damn thing from them.
Looking good in election mode, but...
Yeah.
Which is, especially now with the Costa Concordia disaster this week as well. Now, you wonder, like you were saying, how the ship ran aground on your reef, the Rena, and then you look at what's happened this week over in Italy, and you think, what are these captains doing? Like, where they get their licences from to drive these ships? Yeah.
I mean, maybe they look at the big wide open sea and they think, there's plenty of room out there. But like on these coastlines, it's certainly a navigational hazard. And who can tell? I know that these inquiries that go into such things are very, very detailed, and sometimes you just scratch your head and say, well, what on earth was going on there? It just seems like common sense was being abandoned. If that's the case in the Rena case, well, obviously there'll be consequences not only for the captain and the senior crew, but also for the owners of the ship, or the owners of who were responsible. This is where it really gets difficult on who is really responsible. The owners of the ship are one thing, and then the owners of the actual charter are another. That may have been, they may have kind of leased the ship and were doing a bit of a haul, on a contract. And so where the responsibility lies is a big thing. The other thing is in New Zealand law, there's a cap as to how much New Zealand can actually seek in remedy, financial remedy, to help clean these things up. The New Zealand government's trying to pressure, those two ownership kind of bodies at the moment to cough up a bit more loot to help pay for this cleanup. But really, if it goes to litigation, I mean, there's very little New Zealand can do beyond about $14 million, which is a drop in the ocean, pardon the pun, compared to the cost of cleaning this mess up.
Like you said too, because everyone thinks of when a ship goes aground, the fuel and the oil leaks. But like you said, there's shipping containers bobbing out, which could cause all sorts of damage and strife out there in the ocean. Absolutely, and for years to come. That's if you think back over, say, a 20-year period, if you're talking to yachties, one of the biggest problems is trying to navigate with the, confidence, if you like, in these areas where containers are kind of suspected of bobbing around. Now, with that amount of containers bobbing out there, there's over 100 at least, and like saying that, unsure on exactly what the numbers are, but it's fair to say that there's more than 100 out there bobbing around. Well, that's it's stating the obvious to say it's a serious concern. Oh, gosh. And also, I believe happening over there, the national-led government is being accused of political interference in the public broadcasting agency, New Zealand On Air.
Yeah, New Zealand On Air. Now, what it does is if you're over in New Zealand, you'll see programs pop up on TV, and you might raise an eye and think, does someone fund this? Or you might think, oh, no, that's quite cool. There's kind of a mixed bag of programs.
Yeah.
But at the end of the program, you'll see this, a little thing will come up. This program was made with the help of New Zealand On Air. Something like that will run. Now, so a lot of the programs here in New Zealand, without that funding, wouldn't exist. And what's happened is, in the past, New Zealand On Air has been, the public funder, so it's independent, and it's obviously for media to make programs and documentaries, current affairs type programs, all of this type of thing. Now, the national-led government, during the election campaign, it got pretty sensitive to a documentary that's screened here that looked into child poverty. Yeah. It was critical in its examination of government policy, not just for the incumbent government, the national-led government, but also from the Labour government that was prior to that, and looked at, okay, these are the problems and what are the solutions. Now, the national-led government looks like it got totally bruised and got annoyed with this. It had already stacked onto the board of New Zealand On Air some of its own cronies. One in particular was the Prime Minister's electorate secretary. And has been quite high up in the National Party in the northern region of New Zealand. Now, when this documentary went to air during the election campaign, he sent an email basically to his board chair criticising this and saying, surely this type. He referred to it as satire, though it was a serious current affairs type of documentary. He referred to it as this type of political satire. Surely it should not be allowed to screen during politically sensitive times. Now, since then, an Official Information Act request went off, by Tom Fruin, who is closely aligned to Scoop, the news agency over here, and he produced a story based on that information he got from the Official Information Act, because he was able to get all of those emails that went before
back and forth.
Back and forth. So it's caused. Obviously, the opposition political parties are into the government over this one of really trying to interfere, but so are the media. If you look at the editorials right across New Zealand, they're highly critical of this, because it's another example of this particular government trying to actually either render the news media impotent over on this side of the ditch, or trying to control what it's going to actually be doing. The latest on this is NZonAir is seeking legal advice to see whether or not it can actually stop a program that it may have funded from being screened in what it termed would be a politically sensitive time. Now, that's not necessarily an election campaign time either. That might be a time when the government's starting to get a bit sensitive because it's down in the polls or something like that. It's just
exactly.
A ridiculous kind of situation is developing here, Brad.
It is, and being they're basically just sticking fingers in where they shouldn't be, by the sounds of it, and
once again, it's a common sense thing. These governments, they're there to do a job. They're not there to actually create some sort of Stalinist regime where they cannot
and manipulate public broadcasting.
Yeah, exactly. Manipulate public rules, and we're seeing this in many areas. From the point of view, you put questions to the government on various issues, you'll be likely if you even get a grunt back. If you get a grunt, it might be followed with a "it's not an issue" and laughed at you, and that's about it. They're really trying to make the news media or critical analysis of their own policies, and news media unable to actually follow that course.
Well, we shall keep an eye on all of this. Look, Selwyn, thank you for joining us here on 3095 Adelaide's 5AA.
Okay, Brad.
You have a great day over there.
You too.
And
have a good one.
Enjoy your summer. Cheers. Thanks, mate. That was Selwyn Manning, co-editor of www.scoop.co.nz, the online news service based in Auckland, New Zealand.